Hello, everyone. Welcome to Club Book with Rachell Howzell Hall. I am PJ Tracy, the author of the best-selling Monkey Wrench series, which is set in Minneapolis, and also of Deep into the Dark and the coming soon Desolation Canyon, the first two books in a new series set in Los Angeles. Before I introduce tonight's guest properly, give me a few moments to tell you a bit more about this unique series that's bringing Rachell to us tonight. Club Book is a program of MELSA, the Metropolitan Library Service Agency, made possible through Minnesota's Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and coordinated by Library Strategies, part of the Friends of the St. Paul Public Library. Scott County Library is also co-organizer for this evening's talk. Thanks also to partnering bookseller Red Balloon Bookshop. A purchase link to these toxic things, which I cannot recommend highly enough, will be available in the comments section of this live feed stream. Have it shipped, or you can pick it up at their fabulous store in St. Paul, or if you live in the area, they will deliver right to your door. And on a final housekeeping note, also in the comments, you will see a survey link. MELSA would greatly appreciate hearing what you think of this Club Book program. And it's quick and easy and will be very helpful. Without further ado, our guest, mystery phenom, Rachell Howzell Hall, is the pen behind the 4-volume Elouise Norton series. Readers and critics laud Hall's intrepid and memorable lead as a strong and likable African-American detective with few equals, and that is in the words of Library Journal. Her hometown of Los Angeles serves as the backdrop for the series, as well as most of her standalone work. These include recent book club favorite, Now She's Gone, which put Hall in contention for 3 of the genre's coveted accolades, the Anthony, Barry, and Shamus Awards. Hall is also known for co-authoring the page-turning novella, The Good Sister, published in 2017 as part of James Patterson's best-selling anthology, Family Lawyer. Her latest thriller, These Toxic Things, hit shelves a week ago. In this refreshing take on the serial killer theme, a young freelance artist unexpectedly comes into possession of a former client's curios collection and soon discovers that these trinkets are not as innocuous as they first seemed. And boy, are they not innocuous. After a short presentation by our guests, and I believe Rachell is going to start us out by reading a passage, we'll have time for audience Q&A. All you have to do is drop your questions in the comments thread here on Facebook, and our fabulous tech manager will route them to me. If you'd prefer to query a little more anonymously, you can also send a private message to Club Book here on Facebook, or send an email to clubbookmn@gmail.com. Take it away, Rachell. Welcome.
Welcome. I tried to keep myself off video because I was blushing the entire time. Thank you so much for such a lovely introduction and for being here with me. I wish I was there with you in Minneapolis, but you know, these are the breaks, right? I'm very excited to share these toxic things with all of you. I'm so excited about this book. It's about a young woman named Mickey Lambert, who is a digital archaeologist, basically a digital scrapbooker who helps to curate people's memories onto this new kind of tech device called a memory bank. And she is curating the memories of curio store owner Nadia Denham. And that is the scene I'd like to share with you right now. At 11 o'clock on a rainy Thursday morning, there aren't many cars in the parking lot. The sandwich board at Beautiful Things sits in the breezeway outside the store. I grab my satchel, heavy now with my laptop, sketchbook, white archival gloves, and chargers. Umbrella up, I scan the parking lot for a stalker, but I glimpse only soggy RVs and an abandoned shopping cart. I'm alone, hopefully. As I cross the threshold into Beautiful Things, a bell over the store's front door tinkles. I stole my wet umbrella in the courtesy holder, then tucked strands of damp hair behind my ears. Animal scales and glass domes sit next to tarnished candelabra. Silver flask and yellowing globes are arranged beside totems and pocketbooks, brass planters, stuffed ravens, cuff bracelets, framed maps, jukeboxes, tea service collections. The kind of brass bell that a traveler taps at a hotel rests near the antique turquoise cash register. I tap the bell, and the peal is as pure as it is loud. An open foam carton full of half chicken wings and waffles sits on the stool. One moment, a woman's contralto calls out from a back room. Over by the jukebox near the entrance is a table dedicated to cloth-covered journals. A sucker for those, I pick up a cracked blue journal protected in plastic. I lift the cover. Says I have a gift. My voice is beyond measure, but I lack judgment and I am not properly trained. That is a mid-19th century travel journal of a noted mezzo-soprano from the New York Opera Company. This woman's voice belongs to a wrinkled face as pale as a fish's belly. Sharp blue eyes watch me from behind wire-rimmed glasses. She wears a long blue pinafore and a white turtleneck. A ruby teardrop pendant hangs from a gold chain around her neck. She rakes her fingers through her short silver hair and smiles at me with crooked yellow teeth. 19th century, awesome. I return the book to its slot. Is Nadia Denham in? The woman cants her head. And you are? Michaela Lambert, digital archaeologist from the memory bank. Nadia hired, that's right. The woman claps and grins. I'm Nadia. Well, hello, Michaela Lambert. She holds out her arms. Welcome to Beautiful Things. I do a slow turn and say, you truly have a lot of memories. Good natured, she flaps her hands. I don't need to remember any of these things. What I want to remember is back in the office. First, though, let me give you the grand tour. She pivots and heads toward a collection of framed maps hanging beneath a row of Jesus-themed wall clocks. She touches one chart, and a brown octopus labeled Russia is surrounded by green China, yellow Turkey, and other lands denoted by Japanese calligraphy. One of my prizes, Nadia says, an anti-Russian satirical map made in 1906 during the Russo-Japanese War. She runs her finger along the caption. The store's very first collectible. I didn't acquire it. The original owner of the shop found it back in the late 70s. I bring out a pen and the sketch pad from my bag. Nadia blinks at my tools. Have I said something interesting? Maybe. I'm taking some notes for context. So the original owner? Nadia stares at the pad and shrugs. Sarah Park, a very nice South Korean woman. She opened the store in 1977, but something happened back in her home country, a sick mother. Oh, I can't remember the details now, but Sarah's spirit surrounds this place. In some ways, she never left. In every way, she's still here. And oh, look, you'll like this. Over at a bookcase, she pulls out a book with a faded red cover and a gold torchbearer on its front. On the spine, Anna Karenina, Leo Tolstoy. First modern library edition, Nadia says, considered by some the greatest piece of literature ever. She offers it to me, then watches as I gently flip through the pages of the story about a Russian socialite's torrid love affair. Have you read Anna Karenina? Excitement swirls through me like dust. Oh my goodness, yes. I took Russian lit in college. I love how authentic the relationships were, the depiction of class, his writing. I lost my copy about 2 years ago and I gape at her. How did you come across this? It must be worth $800. Up until a year ago, I'd take a month-long trip around the country. I'd visit flea markets, estate sales, stores like mine, and I'd shop and I'd find things no one else wanted and I'd ship it all back. This book was in a dead man's garage sale bin somewhere in New Hampshire. I think he was a professor, but he didn't leave much money, so his family, well, here it is. And now it's yours, from me to you, to replace your lost copy. I shake my head and hold the book out for her to take. I can't. She smiles her butter teeth smile. Why not? I can't accept gifts worth more than $75, tax reasons. Bah, she says, then flaps her hands at me. The shine in your eyes, it's obvious there's love there. This book deserves that kind of love. You have $1? I pull a $5 bill from my wallet. Sold. Nadia plucks the money from my fingers and stuffs it into her pocket. I slip the book into my bag. Who does the collecting around the country now? The store manager. Nadia beckons me as she shuffles over to the collection of board games and aging boxes. Her name is Riley, and she's a little firecracker. She's the one who thought we needed to sell postcards and whatnot. She'll be in later today or tomorrow. I pick up a Parcheesi box. Does she know that I'm working on my memory bank? Nadia nods. She's not thrilled about it. She holds up Operation and smiles. Everyone's favorite. It's not the project per se. She's not thrilled about the reason behind the project, which is, if you don't mind me asking. She says nothing for several seconds. Then a sad smile spreads across her thin lips. Let's talk about why you're here. We move past the Native American jewelry and embroidered pillows and into an office that resembles 1940s industrial America with its sleek, clean lines, chocolate wood, and gunmetal. A large map of the United States hangs on the wall above the desk. Multicolored push pins crowd both the East and West coasts. A few pins stick Louisiana and New Mexico. Nadia plops into the banker's desk chair. Some of the pins match my special memories that I'm starting to forget. It is really serendipitous. I was flipping through the magazine that comes with the Sunday Times, and there it was, this contraption that banks your memories and then projects it into space. And well, it sounded like something out of Star Trek. And I absolutely love Star Trek. She wiggles her fingers. Anyway, I've been trying to organize this special collection for years and failing miserably. And then the way I was doing it, she sticks out her tongue, a complete mess. I could never find the right words. Then I'd forget words, saying them, writing them. Nadia removes her glasses, rubs her eyes. You see, Michaela, first, I kept forgetting where I parked the car. Harmless. Everyone forgets that once or twice. But then I keep asking Riley, what time are you coming in? And I get lost driving to the Rose Bowl every weekend, even though I'd gone to that flea market forever. A few times I had no idea where I was. I was even lost in my store once, and she slips her glasses on again, then fumbles with the white medic alert bracelet on her wrist. A tattoo of a heart and a pair of dice flashes beneath that bracelet. A month ago, I was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I press my hand to my chest. I'm so sorry. As you can imagine, for someone like me, someone who collects and sells antiques and memorabilia, that diagnosis was absolutely devastating. The idea that one day I wouldn't remember the stories behind, she points to the pins on the map. Is that the project, I ask? Cataloging memories from those places on the map? Yes. She rolls her chair over to the project table near the window. Random things cover the long wood surface, a music box, a hairpin, a pipe, torn sheets of notepaper sit beneath each item. These 12 things mean the most to me, Nadia says. I want to remember them as long as I'm walking above ground. And I want the people who love me to have this too, once I've left this world.
Thank you so much, Rachel. It's a wonderful passage. And it was
Thank
such
you.
a fabulous book. I just loved it. It was a real odyssey.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, first, I would like to ask you a few geeky author-to-author questions. The first thing is, on your website, you mentioned the early influence of city sounds in your childhood and the need for answers. And it seems like the written word was a way for you to make sense of the world around you. And I really think that's true for a lot of authors. Can you tell me a little bit about your evolution from then until now, to scrolling on church bulletins in your brother's yearbook to like being a published and, so well-regarded author?
Thank you. No, I was like so many writers. I was a very quiet kid. I didn't like loud sounds from gunfire in my neighborhood. I grew up in South Los Angeles, my parents arguing, to just chaos. It made me very nervous. And I often took to books to escape from those sounds. I often took to writing in my diaries, which I kept writing in until 2 years out of college, to make sense of what those sounds meant and what the people behind those sounds were doing. I never understood. I was a very religious kid, and religious kids were scared of hell. And so I never understood, well, why are people doing these bad things to each other? They'll go to hell for that.
Exactly.
I don't understand. And I didn't understand why, just in general, people talk the way they did to each other and raise their voices. And why do we hurt each other? And books helped me figure things out. And when I couldn't figure them out, it helped me dip into those worlds. And so, I wanted to tell my own stories. I thought initially that I was going to be in advertising. Well, first I thought I wanted to be a nun, even though we weren't Catholic. I just liked the habit. The habit was.
Oh yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah. I wanted to join the Marines. Again, the uniform. There's something about uniformity that has stuck with me.
It's regimented. It's
yes,
predictable, right?
Right, exactly. But then I figured, I didn't want any of those things. I just wanted to have some sense of order in my life. And writing helped bring that. And so, my parents were used to me writing and reading and disappearing with books and words. And they were cool with me saying, I want to go to Santa Cruz and get a degree in, reading. Because that's who I was. I don't add. I like science, but you have to add to do science.
Right.
This was my strength. This was my love. I would, read books for free. And so I went away and learned how to write. But I didn't learn how. I was too young to know what it was that I needed to write. I just knew I wanted to tell stories. And I really didn't think that I could ever be a novelist. I thought my writing would come from my day job, going into advertising or publishing, because, we all want to go into publishing too when we're young. So it didn't click for me that I too could be a writer until my first real job at Penn Center USA West, which is a part of Penn American Center. And I saw and met working writers, including some of our genres, big names like, Gary Phillips, who is just one of the most generous African-American writers, genre writers in the country, in the world. And I saw it, when you see something, it's like, I can be that. And I met him, and I met Paula Woods and B.B. Moore Campbell, who wrote these contemporary African-American stories set in Los Angeles. I met all these incredible working writers. And that's when it's like, okay, I can do this. So what is it that I want to write about? And that's when I started, writing bad prose, as we all write our crappy little stories that, we're trying to write those stories that we read and that we've read in college, those stories that get people on the Granta list of 30 under 30, the kind of MFA type. I didn't have an MFA, I was working toward it and I gave it up. But those types of stories that may sound good, but don't really have that much heart.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't land any editor or an agent for that matter. It wasn't until I witnessed a friend going through mental illness and just how that wrecked her family, and how her son disappeared, the one who was experiencing these problems, that it's like, I want to talk about this, because I was a church kid and we didn't talk about mental illness. You prayed things away, and that was that. You were either, saved or not. Jesus did it, or you're possessed. It wasn't science that we were going after. And so I wrote that story and I landed an agent, and she sold it. It was A Quiet Storm, and it was published on the first anniversary of 9/11.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was hard. That was hard because, my story about an African-American family in Los Angeles going through mental illness was not, a thing for, a country that has just gone through a year of, planes crashing through the World Trade Center. So it took me a while. I did fine. I had a top publisher. I was with Scribner, and they tried, I won't say they tried their best, but they tried. And I'm still trying to earn out on that book 20 years later. But I kept writing because I loved it. And while A Quiet Storm was not a proper mystery, it was literary fiction / psychological suspense. I liked that. I liked the mystery of someone disappearing or a body being found. I really liked that. And I kept writing, even without, my agent and I, we eventually separated. I couldn't get a book deal, but I'm in my 30s now. And we all know that 30s is when you do a lot of living. It's when you finally grow up and your parents are starting to get old. You're starting to have a family, you buy the house, all the crazy big things of life happen in your 30s. And I was going through all of it, including some health issues. And it wasn't until I was diagnosed with a random breast cancer when I was 33 and pregnant with my daughter.
Oh my God.
And, we made it through. She's healthy. But, that experience and continued experiences after that relating to my illness helped me define what exactly it is that I wanted to write and what I needed to do before leaving the world. And so I thought about what is it? And, all this time when I'm not being published, I was still writing and inching closer and closer and closer and surrounding myself with crime fiction. I was reading a lot of Michael Connelly, and Walter Mosley had just come out with Devil in a Blue Dress, and Terry McMillan had come out with Waiting to Excel. So there's all these things, and we're book sluts, so we're reading all of it. And the best of us, we collect things from different writers that we love. And as I'm trying to figure out what type of book I want to write, I said to myself, well, I want to write a story where it's Waiting to Excel with Devil in a Blue Dress and smash them together. And I know that may not make sense, but that's what I want, and I'm going to do it. And so I started writing the story about this LAPD homicide detective named Elouise Norton, who patrols my part of LA where I grew up. And she went to college with me and my sorority sister. I know this person. And I called it Land of Shadows. And I went out with it. I was nervous, but I wasn't scared because I experienced real fear. And that was dealing with cancer and making sure that my daughter was healthy after all the operations I had while being pregnant. So, it was some fear because I wasn't a cop. And here I am writing this procedural. How dare I? But then it's like, well, whatever, I'm going to do it. And if it sells, that's awesome. I just want just one book. And I got a great agent, Jill Marshall, down in San Diego, who sold it to an incredible editor at Forge, Kristen Sevick. And Kristen loved it and bought another, and then bought 2 more, and then bought some more. And now here I am with these toxic things, still living life. I've gone through my 40s. I'm now 51. And the wonderful thing about growing older is, you're writing, becoming richer from all the drama of living, and you just infuse that into your words. And so, all the young writers out there, if you don't get it at first, don't worry. There's no expiration date. And actually your stuff becomes better the older you get. So that's my writing journey. It's still not over. I have a daughter going to college, and so I don't know what that means for me with one child and my husband and I discovering each other. So I'm going to take that experience and I'm going to infuse that into my writing. Everything's content.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was an amazing journey. Thank you for sharing. And isn't writing, it is catharsis.
Yes, it is.
And
it's deep therapy.
Yeah, it totally is therapy. And, I am so glad you followed your heart and your passion. And I know there are tons of fans out there we're really glad you did too. And by the way, I love Lou. She is the best. I
I
just
love her.
finished Land of Shadow. Well, you can tell that you love her and
Yeah.
you love your characters. I mean, that really, if you know, so many times you read something and it's like, does the author even care about their characters?
Yeah, no, it's for me, it's very, very personal. I get up, I still work a day job, and I get up at 4:40 every morning to write my own stuff. I give myself the best words, I always say. I
Yeah.
do write for my day job, but I get up early so that I can get this in. And if I'm doing that and being a mom and a day job worker and, you know, someone who's bustling around the city of Los Angeles, I have to care. I have to care to write 90,000 words for every one of these stories. And, you know, I believe that I survived my cancer experience for many reasons, including being honest with what I'm writing about. I tried to be a hack once. It didn't work out. And, it's just,
Thank goodness.
yeah. And some people, they can do that. They have that gift. My day job, I ghostwrite, and that's fine. But fortunately, I believe in what I do even then for my day job. I'm a writer at a large medical center out here in Los Angeles. And as someone who has benefited from great medicine and dedicated doctors, I believe in great science and meaningful patient care. So I even believe in that. So I want my life to have meaning and purpose. And that includes fiction. It's fiction. It doesn't really matter because you're making it up. I may be making it up, but the emotions that people feel when they're victimized, when they're scared, when they're anxious, when they're excited, I know what that means. And I know the people that I'm writing for know what that means. And so I'm writing for me, like I said, catharsis, cheap therapy. And I'm writing for readers out there who, like me, are looking for answers to something. And often stories are what help. They've always helped people make that bridge, make that connection to what they're going through in their life. That's why they're like 6,000 CSIs.
Right. Well, and it's really interesting because it's a safe way to broach some of these things because it is fiction, but I mean, it's just so important to connect with the readers. And, I'm so happy to hear that because I think one of the most rewarding things for me as a writer is hearing from a fan or reader that you have touched them in some way, that they understand, they sympathize, they empathize with the character or situation because they've been through it. And it's very, powerful.
Yeah. No, and it's how we communicate. Growing up as a religious kid, I heard that, it's a sin to write fiction. But for me, it's like, you're not supposed to write fiction because it's a lie. And for me, it's like, well, Jesus told parables. That's how he connected with some people.
Right.
And I'm not him, but that's what I believe. Fiction connects people with one another. Story will do that forever. And you may get to someone and have them listen by talking about someone else in this far, far land over here and get them to see what you're actually trying to say to them today in their contemporary world. So I love it. And with crime fiction, fortunately and unfortunately, we have a lot of stories to tell. People will forever, since the beginning of time, people have hurt each other. And as writers, we try and figure out why and what we can do to survive that hurt. So, we're going to be busy a lot, Tracy.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, we certainly are.
Yeah.
Right. Rachel, I've gotten a lot of questions about digital archaeology, and that kind of wends into my next question I want to ask you. Just, briefly, can you tell us what your inspiration for these toxic things was? It's so unique.
Well, this is the first story that I haven't centered myself, meaning, a Gen Xer as the center of the story. It's actually my daughter and my niece's generation, the Gen Ys and the millennials. And part of the inspiration came from, on your phone, sometimes you'll get a picture in Facebook, or someone will, or something will say, a year ago,
Right.
this is
Yep.
what you were. And, while that's cool, I realized that we don't print out pictures anymore. Not really. I mean, sometimes we do, Argent, but my daughter, all her memories are on the phone. And that kind of troubles me. There's something about, holding a tchotchke, holding memorabilia, holding a photo album full of pictures. And, that was kind of weird for me. And so I thought about that. And then I thought about, I was writing this during the pandemic. And this was a time when most of us are doing these home projects where we're cleaning things out. And so I was cleaning out a project, and I found, I can't even remember what it was, but it was a souvenir. And, I was talking to family about the souvenir, and everyone had different memories about how the souvenir came to be.
Yeah.
And in a way, that's kind of troubling too. It's like, it's cool because it's like, oh, we all have different connections to this, but it's like, well, how do you remember this? And how we remember things, we may look upon something with great joy, and we're gleeful to see this again, but someone else can see that same object and feel fear or anger. Why didn't I inherit that train set? Why do you get to have grandma's brooch? So all these things about real life and how we remember things and how people are remembered by their things swirled in my mind. And I wanted to put all that stuff in this whole new kind of tech world of memories being digitalized and uploaded and holographed, and yet they're still memories. No matter how they come at you or how they're captured, they're still memories, and they could either be toxic or they can be joyful. So
Right.
that's
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. That's really interesting. Yeah, it was such a refreshing, unique take. And it made me think about those things too, about like, oh my gosh, here's grandma's whatever on the piano and, things like that. Yeah, I thought a lot more about the stuff I surround myself with in my home.
Yeah, and we're all in Michaela. I constructed her to be this millennial Gen Y, whatever she is, which is a mixture of all the things from the boomer grandparents to the Gen X parents to the young people to, analog and digital. She is a collection of all these things. And that's who she represents, so many things to different people. She even, she wears her mom's clothes all the time. So in some ways, she's a hand-me-down. She's a tchotchke. She's, and she's an object. So yeah, there are a lot of things that went into this novel. I threw it all in.
Well, yeah, I mean, you did. It was just fabulous. I'll ask one more of my own questions, then we'll probably get to some Q&As from the audience because we have quite a few of them. But this is also a question that corresponds with another viewer's question that they wrote into us. Now I'm, as an author, obviously I'm always fascinated with fellow writers' process because, we're all so different. And so I just kind of wanted you to give us a glimpse on your approach. And here's the reader question that is, basically the same. Are you a plotter or a pantster? Now, for those of you not familiar with pantster, don't feel bad because I had to Google it. I had no idea what it was. So anyhow, a pantster is a writer who flies by the seat of their pants, kind of like me. But what are you? Or are you
I am an outliner. Remember, I'm the girl who wanted to be a nun and a Marine.
Oh, that's right. Of course. What am I thinking?
So yeah, so I like order. I like knowing where I'm going. I do outline. Part of that also is because having a day job, I want to be able to see progress and feel like I'm having some momentum. And so having an outline allows me to cross out things. I'm the type, I keep calendars and to-do lists they're all over. And and even if I don't have it on the list, I will write it and then cross it out because I like the,
I
so,
do that too. Yeah.
yeah. So while I'm very regimented in some ways, I do allow myself to follow inspiration. So there's sometimes when you are writing something and an idea strikes and you are like, okay, I'm gonna follow that. And I feel good with following whatever that is over there because I still have my map. So I outline, I write my first drafts longhand.
Oh, do you really?
I do.
Wow.
It allows me to connect more with the characters and the story. And I don't feel, whenever I see the little squiggly lines, the red line or the blue line or green line beneath, on Word, I have a need to want to correct that. And so it's distracting. But with writing longhand, I get to cross out and it doesn't have to be neat. I can write in the margins and I can shove it in my purse and write somewhere else. I don't have to worry about the battery dying. I like the feel of good pens against a legal pad. I like that. So yeah, it may take me a little longer. For my day job, I have no problems like writing directly.
It's a creative process connecting with,
but with my stories, I need to take the scenic journey to get there.
That's wonderful. I love it. Okay, I just have one quick fluff question for you because I love to get these and to answer them. Do you have any essential snacks or beverages when you're writing?
In the mornings, I do have to have my Nescafe.
Okay.
And I still have it right here.
Oh, there you go.
I get up, I feed the dog, I feed the two cats, I make my Nescafe and I sit down and write until it's time for me to go to work.
Oh my God.
But other than that, no, after this, I will eat dinner and I will celebrate with popcorn with lots of butter and salt and red wine.
Okay, good girl. Very good. Yeah. All right. Well, let me get to some of the questions from our audience. And the first one you talked about a little bit, but she says, is digital archaeology a real enterprise? As a caregiver of someone with Alzheimer's, I was intrigued by the concept of an next-gen digital scrapbook, which hold value even without the flashy holographics.
There was a moment where there was this organization, this firm, startup, was trying to do something like that, and it died. I'm not sure. I know it was sold off. I don't know where that organization, that company is, and I haven't heard anything since then. But Facebook and iPhones, they're trying to do something like that, but nothing that I know of that's like this, including the narratives that go along with it.
Right.
That came out of, because I look at pictures all the time. It's like, well, what is the context of this? What happened here? And I wanted to I don't know what's, not necessarily show off. I wanted to try, it's like, can I do this? Can I write these little vignettes? I wanted to spread my wings and figure out if I could write these vignettes. And so that's the idea. It's like, okay, yeah, she has a memory bank, but what's the story behind these things? Who are the people behind these things?
Yeah, so stories within the story.
Yeah. It's like, I want to do this gymnast trick. And so I did it.
Yeah, that's good. So there is a new job for you, Rachel. Just what you need. Start your own digital archaeology company.
I know, right? Awesome. But I hope something like this actually does take foot, because, especially for those who are dealing with neurodegenerative diseases, it's a wonderful thing. It's something great to have.
Yeah, it truly is. Now, our second question is two-part, but you answered the first already. Your first question was, is Binky Lambert based on anyone real? But we know you based on your daughter and your nieces and that generation. So our second is, I enjoy being in on her stream of consciousness style inner thoughts. Do you generally find it harder to write from the perspective of a new protagonist versus Detective Norton, who you've known for so long?
It was in some ways difficult for this story, yes, because she is younger. She's 24 years old. I haven't been 24, in
I hear
600
ya.
years. Right? So it's like, well, what do they even think nowadays?
Yeah.
Who are these people? And why is, they're used to everything happening instantly. I
Yeah.
don't know what that means. So, to help me, I did turn to my daughter and my nieces to, from dating, they date different now, to what do you drink? What are your cheap drinks? We grew up with, Jack Daniel's Down Home Punch and Mickey's Heart Lemonade. They drink White Claws. It's like, well, what
Yeah,
the hell is
right.
White Claw? What is that? That looks weird.
What's a seltzer?
What's a seltzer? Why do you need, how do you get a buzz from a seltzer? So yeah, that was difficult, but I liked, and with all my standalones, I like jumping in the heads of different women because in some ways I'm all of these women.
Sure.
I may not be as smart and strong as Lou, but I know I'm a survivor, and Lou is too. Miriam Macy and They All Fall Down, who deals with being, a tiger mom in some ways. I have been in situations where I may not have killed somebody over my daughter, but I could see it.
Yeah, right.
I am each of these characters in some ways. I know this woman and I want to reflect her. And so, it may take, and that's one reason I write longhand too. I need to get to know these women, and it takes me several drafts for me to understand who she is.
Mhm.
My when I give my initial synopses to my agent, she's like, "Well, who is she?" Well, I have no idea. I don't know who this
You don't
woman
know
is.
yet.
It takes me about two drafts to, it's like, okay, she is, an INTJ personality on the Briggs Myers personality scale. She likes this thing, she likes that, but I don't know these things initially. And this, when you're writing a situation, you don't know what a character is going to do until they do it. And either you're like, that's authentic, or she wouldn't do that.
Right.
It takes you to get to that point in your
Yeah.
process. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. All right. Okay, here's a good one that I would like to know too. How do you juggle your writing career and day job at the hospital?
Oh my gosh. It's exhausting. It's
That says it
exhausting.
all.
Oh my gosh. But first, I am, while sometimes it can be a drag to have a day job because what I love is writing these stories, I must say that I am grateful to have jobs that do have a lot of meaning. I've been a fundraising writer for medical science since 2008. And even before then, I was a fundraiser at the ACLU and I worked at the UCLA. And so I've been able to have jobs that have meaning. So while it sucks sometimes that I don't have the time that I'd like, I feel good that I'm using my talents for a bigger thing, a better
Yes.
cause, and I'm getting paid. I'm getting paid to write and to save and improve lives. So that is important to me. So that helps when I can't get to the writing that I want to do, and so I get up early in the mornings, especially now, to do it. I get up. Um, I write from 4:45 after I get my Nescafe. And then I write to about 7 o'clock. And I return emails and do all that kind of like administrative part of writing. And then I go to work. I work from about 7:45 to 3. Um, I do, if I have an idea for a scene or breakthrough, I use Post-it notes and scratch paper and I capture it there. Back in the wonderful days of commuting, and I say wonderful days of commuting because that liminal space between your destination and where you just came from, I use that to think about my story. I use that to listen to true crime podcasts because listening to other people's stories inspires you. I miss that. I miss those times in the car where I can just kind of think. And so I have to find other ways to do that. I enjoy going to cars, getting my car serviced, doctor's appointments, anytime that I can be in the car and just think, I take advantage of that, because
Yeah.
by the time I get back to my desk, I've figured something out. So when I wake up the next morning, I'm already, ready to write. I do write every day, and this may not be right for everyone, but I do write every day because for me, I write such personal things, and I use my own experience to build out this world. Things happen to me every day. I've learned something, or I've experienced something new has made me mad, something new has made me happy. And I want to be sure that I am at my desk ready to incorporate that into whatever scene that I'm working on. And if I skip days, then that magic, that alchemy is gone. I don't want it to go, because my time, I don't get a lot of it. I'm working and soccer practice and like sleeping.
Yes, what's that?
I know, right? Those things. Taking a shower. So I want to be sure that I can, the wizardry keeps keeps going every day. Yeah,
right.
it may not be good words, but it's something.
But it's words, and it keeps you connected to the process and your characters. I write every day, 365, whatever, and I do it because I love it. And I feel sad a day when I don't write. I feel sad. So even if I have stuff going on all day and get home at midnight, I'll write for an hour. So I'm not sad.
No, the only time I do not write, like not even pick up a pen, is vacation. I do allow myself a week of true vacation when I'm doing a lot of reading. We actually went on real vacation this past July, and I read like 3 books, and it was glorious. It was recharging. And I'm okay. I'm not sad, because I know that it's waiting for me. And
and you're still doing work by reading, because that's part of our job, right?
Exactly. Your mind is still working, right?
It's still, well, you can't show it up. You can't sleep. I mean, I dream, I saw things in my sleep sometimes. Not often, but
But you do, and we're like squirrels, and we save that up.
Exactly. We are like squirrels.
We're squirrels and vampires.
Yes, right. That's us. Okay, here is another question. And we've had a couple questions similar to this. I know that Rachell has overcome a number of adversities to get where she is today. As a pre-published writer of color, I'd like to hear candid experiences as a breakout BIPOC author in a genre that is traditionally pretty white.
It has been a challenge. You are correct about that. Before these wonderful things started happening to me, like I mentioned, I've been trying to be published again since 2003, and my next book deal didn't come into 2014. And in between that, I'm writing and I'm submitting these stories. And there's some editors and agents who are like, well, your voice isn't Black enough. Or I have one of those already, and that was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking.
That's really awful.
Yeah, to say that my voice isn't Black enough, isn't urban enough.
Why you? No one's telling you, well, you're not white enough. Yeah, I know. It's just
I didn't understand it. And in between all this rejection, I'm going through this whole cancer thing. So there were times where I just wanted to give up, and I didn't know what else I could do, though. That was the awful thing. It's like, well, if I stop writing, then what? What? I like words. I like writing. And that's when I tried to be a hack and tried to write, the whole urban gritty fiction thing that they were buying back then. But that wasn't me. That wasn't my experience. My experience was a West Coast African-American Gen Xer. And that wasn't the flavor of the month, but I kept going and I kept writing and I kept reading those stories that appealed to me, both, writers of color, their stories, but also those stories written by white authors who I wanted to emulate. Michael Connelly, George Pelecanos, Dennis Lehane. I read those stories. It's like, well, what are they doing that I can't do? And I read them and broke them down forensically to try and figure that out. And at this time, Amazon just came out with the Kindle self-publishing platform. And two of those stories that I had hoped to publish, to get an agent for and to publish, I didn't land representation, and I didn't sell them to anyone. And so I uploaded those two stories, The View from Here and No One Knows You're Here, onto Kindle. And one, it was cool because I felt that these stories could find some readers. Two, I got a little money for it. And three, it helped me figure out that, yeah, this is what I want to do. These are the stories I want to write. And I had to write all these bad stories to get to the good ones, because my second novel, the novel that I tried to sell in 2003 and was told that my voice wasn't Black enough, that story was the story of the domestic abuse story in And Now She's Gone. And Now She's Gone is a story of a PI who is looking for a missing woman who doesn't want to be found. Nestled within that story is a story of a woman named Natalie Dixon who has disappeared from an abusive marriage. And that abusive marriage story was that story back in 2003. Oh. So even though I didn't sell it then, little did I know that it would become useful for me in 2020 when it came out and was nominated for a Los Angeles Times Book Award. So I would say to you, question submitter, to just keep going, to brush off the whole "you're not fitting in this box," because who gives a damn what your box is? This is what you want to write. That doesn't mean you can write crappy things. No, write your best, learn, listen, go to conferences, check out Sisters in Crime if you're a genre writer, and Mystery Writers of America and all these other great organizations, and take advantage of those conferences and those awards and the tutoring, all that, and write your story, write the best story you can, the most authentic and meaningful story that you have. And then, just keep trying. And if it doesn't sell, keep it, because 10 years from now, it may be that story that you didn't know how to write back then that can now be an award winner.
That's so true. And it's part of the process of finding yourself, finding your voice. And I think when people finally have that aha moment, it's because it is genuine, it's authentic, and it's coming from here and not from here, or not from somebody saying fit into that box.
Right. Here is a dangerous place.
This is here.
It's a wonderful place because things happen there. Our stories actually, we have to use our, but here, that's where the heart of the story comes out.
That's it. And you can tell when the heart is in there, and you can tell when the heart is not, definitely. Yeah, very good. Well, thank you so much. And here's a good one for you. I have to ask, what was it like to work with James Patterson's publishing team? How did that collaboration come about? The Good Sister is how I first learned of you.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's cool to hear. That was one of those like shots from the sky. So I was at work, and it was a Friday afternoon around 4:00. And we all know how we feel at 4:00 on a Friday afternoon.
Yes.
Exhausted. We're done. I was done for the day. And my wonderful agent, Jill, she calls me and she's like, so James Patterson's editor reached out to me just now. So he's read, Land of Shadows, and he really liked it. And he doesn't have any LA stories. And he was wondering if you were interested in writing a story with him. And first of all, I'm like, what? That's the writer part in me. The day jobber in me, who was like exhausted because it's Friday at 4. I'm like, I need to think about it. I had to think about it. It didn't take long. We went out to for tacos and margaritas, and my husband's like, for real? I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do it. Of course I'm gonna do it. I just needed a drink. It was 4:00 yeah. So I immediately, after the margaritas and the tacos, I reach out to Jill. It's like, I would love to. And it was an incredible experience. I learned so much. All the whole getting out of the chapter early, the whole page turning thing, cliffhanger thing, I learned from him. It was difficult for me, as novelists, we like the sprawl of the novel, the taking your time and describing everything. And he's like, no, we need to get in, get out, 30,000 words. I'm like, how do you do that?
30,000 words.
30,000 words. And it's like, but I need to describe the color of her eyes and all the scenery. No, cut all that. It needs to pop. And so we worked 10,000 words at a time. And I would submit my outline and too much. He'd cross it out. I'd submit my chapters. No, too much. And I learned how to write quickly in and out of the scenes, make them turn the pages. And that is an incredible gift. It was wonderful for me because it was, a wonderful distraction, because on the day that I needed to turn in my last 30,000 words, I was going into surgery for,
oh my gosh, wow,
cancer-related sickness. I needed surgery. And I'm in bed 4:40 in the morning, writing this James Patterson story before I go off to St. John's for the surgery. So once again, if I didn't wake up from surgery, because surgery is always weird.
Yes,
I knew that I just turned in this story to one of the greatest thriller writers in the history of thriller writing. And I was fine with that. It was a blessing to work with him. And obviously, the person who asked this question found me through.
Right.
So,
exactly.
So Uncle James is always.
That's fabulous.
Thank you.
I am so sad, but we probably only have time for one more question. This has been so much fun. You can stay here for hours.
Yeah.
Give us some wine and margaritas and tacos. We'll be here all night.
Exactly. Right.
All right. Okay. This is the second few people have asked this question. If you have an opportunity to collaborate on a project with another author, who would you like to work with next?
I would love to work with, and I could probably help make this happen. I'll work with Kelly Garrett. She is a young crime writer, Kellye, who came out with a series featuring an amateur sleuth, and she has such a great sense of humor. And her next book comes out next spring, Like a Sister. And I love her voice. I like her humor. She's an East Coast writer. And then it's like, oh, East Coast, West Coast. She's younger than I am. I'm older. Yeah. It would be so cool to have like these two, Black sleuth women, trying to figure out some shenanigans somewhere. So
right, like also even.
Yeah, I would love to work, and I'm trying to figure out what that project would be. But I was thinking about that. So you may see Rachell Howzell Hall, Kelly Garrett combo platter, in the future.
Sounds fabulous. Well, Rachel, I hate to let you go, but we are out of time. I know we're out of time, but thank you so much for penciling us into your busy schedule, and all the best to you, and good luck with these toxic things.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Club Book. Thank you for moderating, Tracy. Thank you, everyone, for taking time out to listen to us talk about words.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
Now I just have a few more words to say, and this has been a virtual presentation of Club Book, a long-running literary series of MELSA, made possible by Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Special thanks again to Scott County Library for the part they played in bringing Rachel to us. Before you log off, please look for the Club Book survey link, which is in the comments and will be projected in place of my video momentarily. Lastly, consider joining Club Book on Thursday, September 16th, for a talk with novelist Angeline Booley, author of The Firekeeper's Daughter. Her upbringing and firsthand knowledge of Native life informed Booley's blockbuster young adult debut, about an undercover narcotics investigation in the Ojibwe reservations on Michigan's Upper Peninsula. This one will be co-hosted by Dakota County Library. And as always, it's free and they'll be right here on Facebook Live. Thanks everyone. Have a great night.